There's also closed captioning available via Zoom if you need. But let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody once again to our 2024 Fellowship Showcase. This is truly one of my favorite things that we do each year to just highlight and celebrate our fellows. I'm very excited for everybody to meet our fellows and see the amazing work that they've been doing over the past 9 weeks. So hello, once again, I'm Stephanie. I'm the Executive Director of 7,000 Languages. Before we begin, I also want to acknowledge that 7,000 Languages is based in Boston, Massachusetts, which means that we live and we work on the stolen lands of the Wampanoag and the Massachusetts nations. And despite centuries of colonized violence, the Wampanoag and the Massachusetts people are still here, working diligently and passionately to restore and revitalize their languages. Not only do we want to acknowledge these communities, but we also want to commit to learning from and supporting the ongoing efforts of Indigenous peoples around the world who are preserving and revitalizing their languages and cultures, and in doing so, contributing to a future that respects the inseparable bonds between language and people. So thank you. And once again, welcome. Continue to use that chat. We're excited to see where you're coming in from. Josh, if you don't mind, headed to the next slide. I'm going to quickly introduce our organization before we get going today. So 7,000 Languages is a US-based nonprofit organization. We've worked alongside Indigenous communities in the United States and countless countries abroad since 2016. Our mission is to empower communities around the world to teach, learn, and sustain their languages. We provide free language learning software and training to communities interested in revitalizing their languages. To date, we have published over 40 language courses in Indigenous and endangered languages, 48, including the languages that you will see here presented by our fellows. So very exciting. We are so honored to be able to work alongside the individuals here today through our fellowship program. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I also want to pause and talk about our values. We like to present our values at the beginning of all of our talks to really ground our organization and our values and how we approach our work. So I will go over them one by one. I hope that this is just really an introduction to these values and an opportunity for all organizations to kind of position themselves within their values. So I will talk about our 4 core values. Empowerment and ownership. We believe that Indigenous languages and the materials created for those languages belong to the community of ancestors, speakers, and descendants of those languages. And so we seek to cooperatively develop resources for every community to self-determine the future of their language. Most importantly is this value of ownership. All of the courses and all of the materials you will see presented today belong to the fellows and the communities that they have worked alongside to develop these resources with. Respect and collaboration. We value the rights and traditions of others, and we approach our relationship as guests, recognizing the leadership of our partners. Our fellows here today, you will see, they are the experts, they are the leaders of their work here. Diversity and inclusion. We recognize the value and importance of each language for their community. We also believe that every language strengthens humanity as a whole. And thus, each and every community deserves the opportunity to teach, learn, and sustain their language, regardless of who uses that language, where that language is used, or by how many people. And so our final value is then we believe communities should have access to technology and support that assists their language journeys in ways that reflect their cultural values. So we believe that this technology that you will see utilized for language learning should reflect the community's culture, practices, and ways of knowing. And I think you'll see that in full display as you're able to see each fellow, a little bit of their course and how they approached using these technology tools in ways that respect and honor and reflect their community and their culture. So thank you. All right. So just a couple quick notes about our fellowship. This is a really exciting program that started in 2022. So we're in our 3rd year. Originally, it started because there were a few individual community members that came to us as 7,000, and they were looking for support for their language revitalization efforts. And so we started this as a program with 2 interns back in 2022, and it's expanded to 8 fellows that you'll be seeing and learning from here in this call. The response to this opportunity has been overwhelming year after year. Our first year that we had this fellowship opportunity, we had about 150 applicants for the program. And this year, as you can see, we had over 2,000, which really demonstrates the need for programs like this. So it's been amazing to see how the fellows have evolved over the 10 weeks we've worked together. We've given them technology, and we've given them information about how to create these courses. And also, we were so proud to be able to support the fellows financially, as language work is real work that deserves to be compensated. My daughter's here. Hold on just 1 minute. She's hungry. Okay, one moment. But this was not possible without support from several other organizations. So we want to really give a really big thank you and a big shout out to the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, the A&B Foundation, and the Esperantic Studies Foundation. Their financial support has made it possible for us to financially support our fellows in their work this summer. So a big thank you to all of them. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to get it going. I'm going to turn it over to Aj now. He's going to introduce each fellow, and I'm so excited for you to meet them and learn about their work.
Thank you, Stephanie. And yeah, thank you all for joining us today. Buju ginawa ajwa condition kaza dikindo demuzo ministuk minawa gawa babagani kagni dunjiba. Hello, everyone. That is a traditional Ojibwe introduction. What I said there is my name is Ajuak. Full name is Ajuak Kapashisit. I come from two different communities, the White Earth Ojibwe Reservation, that was a bit of the Ojibwe language you had heard, as well as a Cree community in Northern Ontario, where I grew up as well. And I also mentioned my clan, which is the Caribou clan. And I'm coming to you all from Minneapolis today. And I'm very happy to be here, happy to be a part of this, and happy that you all are able to join us. So I'm delighted actually to introduce each of the fellows and allow them to share more about their language, community, and the courses they developed with us. After all the fellows have presented, we will have some time for questions. So feel free to use the chat feature to write your questions, and then we can return to those later. So we're going to start today with Brandy. And Brandy, if you're ready to go, I believe I can just I believe you can just take over. Maybe I share it to you. Steph, how does that work? I know we did this part.
Yeah, well, why don't you actually share Brandy's video? She submitted a video beforehand.
Okay.
So why don't you share that? And then you can stop sharing, and each fellow will share.
Great.
Slachayam Kanawi Slaksta. Brandy Nagayach.
I think the audio stopped working. Does the audio stop working for everybody? Okay, sorry about that, folks.
Community.
Is it back now?
I think so.
Okay, sorry, I'll start it over.
Again. Thank you.
Slachayam Kanawi Slaksta. Brandy Nagayachal. Chinuk Tilakam Naga. Naga Mislai Yakwa Kanumox Kanawi Msaiga. All the Dret Slush Dum Dum Naga. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandy Ramus. I am a member of the Chinuk Indian Nation, and I am so happy to be here with all of you. First, I would like to say hayumasi to my teachers, Beth, Tony, and Henry. I have so much gratitude for you and all of my fellow Chinuk Wawa language learners. I would also like to acknowledge and lift up the entire Chinook community. You've offered me so much love and support. Naiga K'at Msaiga. I also want to extend my deepest gratitude to all of the people at 7,000 Languages, and to all the other fellows in this program, current and past. I am so grateful for this time with all of you, and I am humbled to be learning and creating alongside such talented and passionate people. The Chinook Indian Nation is made up of the 5 westernmost Chinookan-speaking tribes at the mouth of the Columbia River and neighboring seacoast. Representing approximately 3,000 enrolled tribal members, most living in Washington and Oregon, we are the stewards of our territory on the lower Columbia River. The Chinook Indian Nation has a long history in the Pacific Northwest, but wasn't officially federally recognized until 2001. That recognition was short-lived. 18 months later, the Bureau of Indian Affairs reversed its decision. We continue to fight to have our recognition restored. Chinuk Wawa, also known as jargon, is a hybrid lingua franca indigenous to the Pacific Northwest. It is the heritage language of the Chinook Indian Nation and the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. A lingua franca is a mixture of multiple languages to allow people that don't speak the same language to communicate. Chinuk Wawa consists of several languages, but is mostly simplified Chinookan, some Nuchalnath, English, and Canadian French. The language originated on the lower Columbia River, where it once was the most common form of intertribal and interethnic communication. Chinuk Wawa was spoken in all areas west of the Rockies, from Northern California to Alaska. This course is targeted to young learners with the objective of creating a learning program that doesn't require knowledge of the English language in order to learn from it. In each unit, I used a basic vocabulary learning structure with lots of visuals and activities for practice, as well as sentences and phrases that use the new vocabulary words they've learned previously in the lesson. The idea is to build on the vocabulary to encourage learners to swap out new words and create their own sentences as their vocabulary grows. This is the Chinuk Wawa alphabet. And on the next few slides, I will give you a preview of some of the learning lessons available in the Chinuk Wawa program. Chinook. Chinook. Muck muck. Ox. Chinook. Ugh. Ox. Kilo. East. Moxed. Soon. Logget. Niga. Nsaiga. Maiga. Msaiga. Yaga. Msaiga. Suchman. Niga. I have also created a collection of printable study materials and worksheets to help Chinuk Wawa learners continue practicing even when they aren't logged on. Learners can download these printable materials directly through the 7,000 Languages course. I hope this online course in Chinuk Wawa will encourage multi-generational learning. Although it is targeted to a young age group, the goal is for young people to learn and inspire the rest of their families to learn as well. I would also like to continue working with our Chinook community and create a course section with our Kanam, which are our sacred stories and our songs. Access to this knowledge is detrimental to the future of our culture and community. I am so grateful to 7,000 Languages for allowing us the opportunity to continue building on our language programs. My long-term goal is to have an at-home learning course available for each grade level. Doing language work can be isolating and discouraging at times. Having this space every week to meet with other language warriors was exactly what I needed to be reinvigorated and inspired to continue my work. I was surprised by how many similarities each of our communities have. Even though most of our languages are very different, our struggles are the same. There are many barriers to language learning, and this fellowship is a great way to start breaking down those barriers. For me, the most impactful part of all of this has been the connections I've made with the other fellows and with Kaylee and Stephanie. I've truly learned so much from this experience and all of you, and I will be forever grateful. Hayumasi.
Thank you very much. And up next, we have Tyler.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. And let me know if you can all see that. Okay. So before I talk about my course, I just want to talk briefly about Northern Pomo, what I mean when I say Northern Pomo, which is my heritage language. Northern Pomo is one of several California indigenous languages. And in this map of California, in each of the colored areas, you can see all the different language groups. Northern Pomo specifically is one of 7 Pomo languages, which are spoken here. And so this is a zoomed up map of the Pomo languages. They're all named according to their relative geographic location, with the exception of Kashaya in the southwest. And I should say that despite the fact that they all have Pomo in the name, they are very different languages. So looking specifically at where Northern Pomo was spoken, this is in central Mendocino County in modern-day California. There wasn't one Northern Pomo tribe. Rather, there were several communities that each spoke a dialect of Northern Pomo, and they each regarded themselves as different from the others, and they would have referred to their language according to the name of their community. And so in the present day, there are 7 federally recognized tribes that would identify Northern Pomo as their heritage language or one of their heritage languages. And they were Coyote Valley, Geedyville, Pinellieville, Potter Valley, Redwood Valley, Sherwood Valley, which is what most of my family are members of, and Round Valley. And I think the modern situation very much mirrors the historical situation. So in terms of the current situation, there aren't any first language speakers remaining. The last first language speaker passed away in the early 2000s. However, we do have a large amount of documentation going back to the mid-19th century onward. And I should say that this documentation reflects a mixture of the pre-colonization dialects. And so when I say Northern Pomo, what I'm really saying is this mixture that is now the shared heritage of all the communities. We have an online dictionary, which includes thousands of words, some texts, and also some language learning resources. And that's where I pull the recordings for my language course. There are language revitalization efforts underway, including a public high school language class, which is entering its 4th year. So in terms of the purpose of developing this course, most of the current revitalization efforts are geared towards younger community members from preschool up to high school age range. And the resources are kind of all in different places. So really what I wanted to do in making this course is draw from all of these resources and also from community efforts to make a single course for a wider age range, especially now that children of adults in our community are learning the language, the adults now want to learn the language. And so my philosophy behind how I designed the course is I want to teach language in context. So in quite a few of my lessons, I have conversations that teach phrases that can be readily used in real life situations. I didn't want to be explicit about grammar. I really wanted to integrate vocabulary and grammar together in a way that is natural. And I didn't want to deter learners by being too explicit about the grammar, especially because it's quite different from English. And I really just wanted to create a comfortable experience for the learner. And I really wanted to make the course learner focused so that way the learner could get from the course what they want to get from the course instead of feeling like they need to master everything. So currently I have 4 units. The first unit goes over the sounds in Northern Pomo as well as the writing system, which is the writing system found on the online dictionary. The emphasis is on teaching the sounds, of course. And then I also incorporate basic vocabulary, which has those sounds. And I tried to pick vocabulary that would appear throughout the course. And in the second unit, I teach conversation starters, so how to introduce yourself, how to ask how are you, and ask where you're from, as well as to respond to those questions. And again, here I really try to weave vocabulary and grammar together in a natural context. The third unit goes over numbers, and then the fourth unit goes over some other types of questions, and it integrates more vocabulary, in that case, animal and color terms. So I'm going to move to my course now. I'm going to first show one of the sound lessons. So this is the last lesson in the unit, which teaches adjectives, probably the sound that is most different to English speakers. And so I begin by describing what an adjective is. I try to use as plain of language as possible. I associate adjectives with kind of this pop sound. So I describe it as a pop sound. I talk about how we write it. We use an apostrophe in combination with the consonant to write the adjective. And then in the next slides, the learners can hear audio of how the adjectives sound. Adjective K in that case. And then after the slideshow, I go through a series of activities that focus on teaching the sounds and the letters. And then the second half of the lesson focuses on teaching the vocab that has those sounds. And here I've tried to use recordings of actual speakers, which you will now hear. And then learners go through a series of vocab related activities. And shifting focus to a more language-focused lesson. In this particular lesson, you learn how to ask where you're from and reply to that. And I've also incorporated an activity where learners get to learn the names of the modern-day Northern Pomo communities. So here's an example conversation. The participants in the conversation are characters from our traditional stories. So in this case, we have Coyote talking to Dove and Mole, asking where each other's from. In terms of how I've integrated aspects of the grammar, I teach plural pronouns here in a natural context, as well as postpositions, but I don't want to call them pronouns or postpositions. And after the conversation preview, actually, I'll play 2 lines here. Habe ke tamana. Balochai keyana. Okay. This is followed by some vocab activities where I first go over the phrase and then I break the phrase down. Okay. And then where I do talk about grammar, it's usually as a comment. And in Northern Pomo, we have postpositions, like I said, and I don't want to use the word postposition. So instead I say, instead of saying from where, like we do in English, we literally say where from in Northern Pomo. And then the last activity that I'd like to show here is an image explorer activity. So this is a map of Mendocino County where the Northern Pomo communities are. When you click on these dots, you can see the Northern Pomo name of the community and hear audio of that. And then in the next activity, learners then identify where those communities are based on the Northern Pomo word. So Shibaldano, I hope I get this right. So that's currently where I'm at. I would just like to give too brief of a thank you to all the staff at 7,000 Languages, Stephanie, Kaylee, Ajuak, and my fellows, Andy, Kelvin, Tanner, Brandy, Lisa, Karina, and Catherine O'Connor and Brady Daly at Boston University, who are working with the documentation, which includes material created with my great-great aunt, who was one of the last speakers. And thank you all for being here to support the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. That was wonderful. Up next, we have Karina. Feel free to take it away.
All right. Hey young, we don't Karina Hoyet, Peterson Mahondating, Hotaito Alhoyet, not to new Panahwaye, not to new Sufdai. Hello everyone, my name is Karina Peterson. I'm from the Hoopa Valley Indian Reservation in Northern California. I'm a Hoopa Valley tribal member. And so I'm working on Natinahwe Mahanehwe, Hoopa language. So this last summer, or just this summer, I was lucky enough to be able to go to a summer symposium at the Salish School of Spokane in Washington. And they have this fluency transfer system that they're working on. And so they kind of like helped us out with this outline of how we might want to like go about presenting stuff. So my tribe, we have one last first speaker, my Auntie Verdina Parker, or Honshu Sats. And so we've been working with her heavily, and she's been working with different people in the community and linguists from UC Berkeley and UC Davis for years now. And so we're trying to take what we have from her already and also build off of that with these books. And so the fluency transfer system is split into 3 books right now. The School of Salish is working on their 4th book. And so basically the first book is where I'm starting off. And so my website is supposed to go hand in hand with this book, and we're really focusing on like family-based learning and community-based learning. So it's open to like a wide variety of age ranges. We're trying to get younger babies into this and also elders into this. So the first book, the first few chapters are just like greetings, hey young, numbers, foods. And so I have that in my website. And so we have recordings from different elders. So my Auntie Verdina, and then we also have recordings from elders who have passed that are added into these. And so really trying to base it around community and have everyone's voices heard. And so we've been working with different families to try to get permissions and stuff like that. So for this, there's like games that we can play.
Oh,
And so you can like drag it to
where we
what
sa
the
how
picture is,
they do sa
and then go off of that. And then we've been working on body parts too. And so right now I have this with the same sort of outline as like the other ones, just for people who can't necessarily read yet, can be able to like do this too on their own, or like moms can do it with their babies, or family members can do it with their young ones. And so really just trying to get that intergenerational like language work going. And so this website has been really helpful in just like figuring out
quit deep
where
quit I
all these different things. And so it's been really cool to experience this. So for the first book too, once we get later into it, it's more storytelling, and each book is like the same story, just a broader version. So I'll share this we were working on yesterday. My Auntie Verdina had a cat who can flush the toilet and go to the bathroom in the actual bathroom. And so it's that story, but it's shortened into just like really like simple sentences for book 1. And then once you've like graduated, it goes on to book 2, where it's longer sentences with more conjugations, I guess is the word I'm thinking of. And then eventually level 3, and it's pretty like intense just looking at it. And so we're really trying to break it down and build up the confidence of people in our community so they can want to speak Hoopa language, I also was kind of nervous about how the website might turn out, and like how, or like the audience, what audiences it could reach. And so I kind of used my cousin, brother, nephew as like a test subject. And so I'll show you a video of him playing one of the games. just to show that it's like we can reach most age ranges with this. And so he's turning 3 next month, and he was doing really good.
Chào. Yeah. Chào. Chào. Nhiều quá. Có nói gì anh? Nhiều quá. Yeah, no.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. Oops, hold on. And so being able to work with my community, and be able to use this as like a resource has been really helpful. In my community, we have like sort of resources here and there, like there's an online dictionary, there's all these things, but it's not really cohesive and it doesn't really come together, and it's very daunting. And so we're just trying to get to a point where like everyone wants to speak it and it's easily accessible. And I think that this is like a huge jump into like reaching to that point where we can have like everyone getting into it. Like we can have babies playing games on their iPads that like are a big thing now. So yeah, thank you so much to 7,000 Languages, all you guys here. It has been really like reflective and really like empowering. Like there's a lot of inspiration and motivation that came with this, but Sadia.
Thank you so much, Karina. And up next, we have Tanner. Tanner, feel free to take it away.
Okay, Ayuki Koda. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanner Barney. I am Karuk, upriver people of Northern California. That's my lovely background. Sorry, supposed to have that up for you. That's me actually on a daily basis, the thinking gorilla. So yeah, I'm Karuk. We are the second largest tribe in the state of California, neighbors to Karina's community, the Hoopa. And I guess for a little bit of context, we're a language isolate with 25 speakers, 5 of which are masters, 20 conversant, and that's a 50% decline since the mid-2000s. Our current efforts for language revitalization include Zoom classes, online content creation, like I've done here, resource consolidation, and immersion in the long term. And so in these Zoom classes, we have them on Thursdays and Fridays. It's a lot of just talking in Karuk. There's a lot of vocabulary learning. And one thing that I noticed as a student is, or at least as a new student, is I'm learning words. I'm learning individual words and vocabulary, but I wanted a way to understand what I was saying or understand how to use my vocabulary in a sentence. And so the lessons that I've created here in 7,000 Languages all surround sentence structure as a whole. And so the first handful of lessons, this whole unit or the whole 2 units they're built progressively. So you are learning a little bit more with each lesson as you go, which I think is probably how it should be designed. So the first 3 lessons are learning subjects, objects, and verbs. And so in this first lesson here, you have Hidatsa or bear, and they're all complete with Hidatsa. Yeah, audio, images. And so the first section, it is just vocabulary, going in and learning these individual sections. But on top of that, you're also learning personal prefixes. So whenever you're using or whichever noun you were using, how does that noun affect other words, or how do you use that noun with other words? And so there's personal prefixes that you need to use within sentences as well. And on top of that, you're also learning how vowels interact, or morphophonetics, phonetics. And so like, for example, if you have, let's see here, an A and an I that come into contact, you need to know that the prefix with the A and the root word with the I create this long E sound to get pesh kesh. And so you go through these first few lessons that are all like, okay, here's your building blocks. And then after that, I developed some lessons on dedicated purely to sentence structure itself, where you're putting together the 3. And I think in this first one, I just include the subject and the verb. So you have these sentences here. So the bear is walking. And this just includes the 2 basic portions of the subject, the verb, and then how they change. So pa being the, Hidatsa is the bear, meaning he, she, or it, aho is to walk, and then TIE is, or TIH is essentially ing in English. And so I have them broken down by phrase. So all of what you've learned in the previous lessons, you're able to see right here in this preview as well. And along with these, I've also included writing as well. My community, we're very stretched out across the United States, and so being able to speak the language with someone else isn't exactly accessible. So being able to produce and write in Karuk means you're able to text in it. And I think as some of my fellows and I think some of the staff know, I include Karuk in my email as well. And eventually, so this is just subject and verb, and it all builds up to this last, like, I guess, grand lesson of putting it together for, where you're taking everything that you have learned over the last few lessons, tenses, persons, personal prefixes, sometimes subjects, omission, and learning all of these sentences and the different ways that sentences can be put together. I've also designed it in a way where once you learn the basic structure and you expand your vocabulary, you can go in, at least, in your mind, and take out words that you don't need. So if I want to change the bear out for woodpecker, all you have to do, the basic structure, and all you have to do is pick and choose which words you want to use. So those are my two main lessons. I also was planning on doing some bang for your buck, or that's what I called sentences, which kind of go along the lines of the same thing. But I talked to a colleague just this last weekend, or just an acquaintance rather, and he had mentioned he's from another community, and he had said that his grandmother said, don't bother, learning the language. Nobody speaks it anyway. It's a dying language, and so it sort of made me think, that kind of sucks. And like I said earlier, being away from my community, I have no one to speak Karuk with. So I thought, what is one way that I can implement the language in my daily life all the time, and like be speaking it for a good chunk of time? And the one way that I figured out, and I just developed this lesson over this week, is dog training. So I have a puppy, a blue heeler. She's super smart, and she's already caught on quite a bit. But I've decided, in order to get myself to speak the language more consistently and speak it on a daily basis, use Karuk instead of English. And so she's bilingual, so she understands English and she understands Karuk as well. And so it's been an interesting trip to go through that and teach her at the same time as teaching myself. So that's my way of implementing it. This whole fellowship has been an absolute blast. I think all of my fellows, we've done some pretty damn good work. I think everyone here should be proud of themselves. And thank you to 7,000 Languages and for all that you provided and been able to do for us here. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. That was lovely. Up next, we have Lisa.
Nito siya ta madrag bago marishi hitina kabagashad nagi grawi itawat di mahoods. My name is Lisa and I come from the MHA Nation. And I am an L2, community L2 of Hidatsa. So we are a Siouan language. Let me just pull up my images here. And so just a little brief history. So we're part of the Siouan language family, and we've been calling the Northern Plains home for a few generations now. So the picture on the left is kind of like our migration. We're acknowledged that we come from the east, before, and breaking out into different, we were one group, the Siouan peoples, and then we kind of broke out to different branches of tribes and bands. And so this is considered our traditional territories up here in the Northern Plains. So this was kind of like our treaty territory. And this picture is kind of where we're at now currently with our reservation. And so there is some history here in regards to like language and cultural transmission. One thing that was very detrimental to us is the flooding of our homelands and almost every township on the reservation in the early 1950s. So that really spread communities out. And so since then, I would say we have about approximately 30 first language fluent speakers left. And of course, most of those are, I would say, maybe 70 and above. And so all of our first language fluent speakers are bilingual with English. So a lot of them learned when they started school and whether they went to boarding school or stayed home and went to school, that's kind of when they transitioned into English. And so this is just kind of where we're at. So we're considered Missouri River Valley Siouan. And so our closest relative would be the Crow people. And so I would say there's been a recent resurgence. So there's a lot of elders and fluent speakers who maybe they haven't taught their children, but now there you see a lot of speakers now teaching their grandchildren. So I would say, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with our language vitality. And so I really, one thing I really appreciated about the fellowship is being able to create a resource made by community members, and then not really having to focus on like having to do everything like the technology. We're just ready to upload content and just kind of figure out what would we like other community members to learn, what have we learned. And so right now, so there's on the left, there's some recent pictures I took of some of us recording the audio. So this audio is all the audio recorded has been recently done just for the course. And so some of the pictures are just from home. One of my old students, her cosplay was pretty good, so let's she's in there. And so this is just kind of the pictures down on the lower right hand corner is just home. So that's Adi Ochodigi Orodaharesh White Lodge stands. And so that is my community. And so what I wanted to do, there's if I can fit this in, hopefully, there's different aspects. So the course is geared for adults, so at least maybe older teens into people who can who are old enough to actually maybe try to understand the concept. So one thing I really wanted to do is I did want to focus, definitely vocabulary has to be part of it, right? And I did want to show like this progression, so through the topics and also as like with the skills and kind of becoming more complex as the units go on. So the first unit I decided was maybe just like I think Tyler and Tanner said this too, like conversation starters, like how introducing yourself, how do you go up to people, how do you start that conversation. And so for people you don't know, so the first unit does focus on this. And then we were able to record for I think it is a short conversation based on greetings. So I just wanted to show a few seconds of that with our conversation preview. Okay. And so yeah, I would like to include as much of that the conversation activity in at least in as most of the lessons. Some I think would kind of be okay without them. So that was one of the major things I really wanted to include in the course. So, there's a lot of times as we try to reclaim and revitalize our languages, we hear it in bits and pieces. And, so I felt confident enough to really try to bring the more like, how do people speak to each other in the language? And so the next one I feel like is just really culturally relevant for us. So that is clanship. And so I still need to input some of the audio in here, but this is just basically we have clanship, and that really dictates like our relationships to each other, how we treat each other. So our kinship relationships and our clanship relationships are very integrated, and so some of these relationships are different than like English relationships. So like for example, like my mother's brother is not my uncle, he's my older brother. So there's some concepts that really kind of need some explaining. And so I felt it would be a little more fun to try to get these different like images to kind of correlate with the clans. So like for example, we have knife clan, so Metsiroga, and Ditska, I think this is Ditska, for prairie chicken clan, Mititskats, I'm prairie chicken, and Nagidoba, and then that's Four Clan, and then we have Nagi, or oops, okay, switch those around, Nagi Naui and Nagi Doba. So that was one part of that, and then the last part I wanted to show that I felt like I really, this is my favorite part of helping or putting this course together is the words in context. So I think, let me see. Oh no. So I wanted to do I kind of took a cue from Tanner and wanted to explain the word order. And so I felt like this is something that even introducing this concept of word order for our community members would be very important. But I feel like once they get this down, then basically just kind of, this is where some explicit grammar instruction happens, and this is in unit 5, so a little bit into the course. And so just explaining word order, and there is, I think, okay, and then I'll just demonstrate this last one. So it's kind of like just some very short phrases and figuring out who's the subject, who's the object here, what's the verb. So just explain the word order, and then basically giving learners a chance to figure out that for themselves, and then them feeling kind of like what Karina said, just building up their confidence and saying, I can understand some of this, I can understand the grammar, so like how would I say this phrase? And so at least at the end of this, I'm hoping like learners would be able to kind of get a better understanding and be able just to be more confident in producing like longer phrases and sentences. And so I just wanted to end with that. And I'm hoping that this can be used for anybody who would like to use it. I'm hoping to reach out to our language and culture teachers on Fort Berthold and just kind of let them know about this, offer it to them as a resource. And so that is it. Mods Gagauz.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was wonderful. And up next, we have Andy. So Andy, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Unmute. Alrighty. Salakapu chero upele uko utsa pitete pishogo pisiapuga uladana andiba tongba I omong atiyangu ek yangak atiyangu u ishko kelepa ilenkaliba unani pudum shaginingel ya shapis I shaginishon inani pokanbi unani yolokon umabilamambil u chikamba. Les quiero agradecerles a todos por estar presente. Mi nombre es Andy y mi familia viene de Santana y San Miguel, El Salvador. He estado involucrado en el espacio de revitalización de idiomas por más de 10 años, ayudando en el trabajo realizando para las lenguas indígenas de El Salvador, que es náhuatl y lenca, siendo mi pasión, pero también siento mi responsabilidad de revitalizar el idioma de mi pueblo. Aunque los antropólogos han denominado el idioma lenca como extinto debido al hecho que no hay hablantes nativos, yo siento mucho orgullo de decir que nuestro idioma sí está vivo porque existen formas de documentación, pero también mientras podamos decir al menos una palabra para que nuestros antepasados lo escuchen, no está extinto en mis ojos. Debido al hecho de que no hay hablantes fluidos ni maestros, muchos estudiantes no tienen una base para comenzar a aprender lenca. El propósito de este curso para mí fue proporcionar una base en la que las personas pueden comenzar a aprender. En particular, el componente de audio es el más importante, ya que no existen otras grabaciones del idioma y los estudiantes usualmente tienen dificultades con la pronunciación básica. Este trabajo es mi granito de arena para Lenca y su pueblo, y intento seguir trabajando con el idioma y el pueblo para revitalizar el idioma Lenca. Mi intención es simplemente sembrar semillas. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. My name is Andy. My family is from Santa Ana and San Miguel, El Salvador. I've been involved in language revitalization spaces since over 10 years now, in particular working with the indigenous languages of what we now know as Salvador, which is Nahuatl and Lenca. It's my passion, but also I feel it is my responsibility. And although anthropologists have classified Lenca as an extinct language because there are no native speakers, I feel a lot of pride in saying that it is still alive. I say it's alive because it is still documented, and the very fact that I can say at least one word out loud so that my ancestors can hear it, that means it is not dead in my eyes. The fact that there are no native speakers, no instructors, means that a lot of students have a lot of struggle with this basic foundation of Lenca. So the main focus of this course really is to provide a foundation for learners. And in particular, the audio component is really important, as again, there are no recordings that have ever been made other than the ones that I have done. So a lot of the common issues really is pronunciation. So with this, I am just planting seeds as this is generational work. I start this off by a really simple kind of introduction to who we are and where our language is from. Here it has a little map of Central America. You can see the parts in yellow is El Salvador and Honduras, where our language is spoken. And it is part of the wider Mesoamerican area. So we do share a lot of similarities with our Maya neighbors in terms of culture and things, especially in pottery and textiles, which we continue to use. And I also talk a little bit about how to refer to the language. It is often referred to as Lenca-Putum or Poton, which actually comes from Putum, which means language. And it's also been called Sai Putum, which means language of the sea. And because, again, it is classified as an extinct language by anthropologists, we have to pick up the pieces. There's a lot of documentation, but I view it as building a mosaic in a way. We're picking up the pieces and building a beautiful language. So you'll see like bigger Lenca phrases and sentences. When translated to English, it sounds really poetic and beautiful, simply because we have to really play around with how to translate. So here, this first half of the course really is just foundational things, how to, the alphabet, how to say hello, how to say goodbye, pronouns. The first half really is intended to be slower, so to speak. And we can hopefully hear the audio of all of the different sounds that we have in our language. You just simply click on all of these and you can hear how all of them are pronounced. I did all of these pronunciations, or all of these recordings, I should say. So again, intention is simply to have people understand how to actually pronounce these things here. This second half really is a little bit more involved in more content heavy, a little bit more vocabulary. So here we can see, let's say, audio for the introductions. All of these are phrases that, of course, this is all in Spanish as Lenca speakers, Lenca people speak Spanish. All of these are basic phrases. Good morning, how are you? Good, good. Also, name, my name is. And you can all of these.
Kisha yanmi, ulanana ba,
So all of these here are simply to help understand really just the basic introductions that we have that are recorded and reconstructed, and also some conversational practice. This is just a really basic conversation between two people who are first getting to know each other. So it's good morning, what's your name? My name is Atswan, what's your name? My name is Sheila, good morning, how are you? So you can sort of hear it.
selakapu, kasamaladana, unani uladana atswamba, manani kasamaladana,
So you could really just click through all of
selakapu,
these to
kishayangmi,
hear them
shamnyangu, manani kishayami,
and simply just clicking on all of
sham
them to
eslen,
understand them all. And it gets a little bit more complicated towards the end because it is a little bit more grammar heavy, let's say. We have a lot of conjugations in Spanish. We have a lot of conjugations, in that we use to refer to different people at different times. Let me show you this here. Here is showing in Spanish, yo bailo, tú bailas, ella baila, nosotros bailamos. So the ends are changing. So Lenca does pretty much the same exact thing, depending on the time, who you're talking about, and who you are. And there's quite a lot of different forms. This is just the present tense, and there's 3 forms of the present tense. So I figured let's keep it a little simple and just do present tense and the present negative tense, as both of them actually have 3 different versions. But we have a lot of conjugations, you know, past. We have 3 different kinds of pasts, 3 different kinds of futures, and command conjugations and ask conjugations. There's quite a lot. So the intention really is to build a really foundational, basic understanding of the language, and you know, just some exercises so that you can get the practice in and which conjugation goes where. But the intention is to continue with this course or even build another course that's a little bit more grammar heavy. So once the foundation is learned, then we can move on there. But I just wanted to really quickly show you all of that. It's been an amazing experience working with and collaborating with everybody here at 7,000 Languages. I'm very appreciative of everybody, and I want to say thank you for the experience and for all your help, and of course, everyone here for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was wonderful. So up next, I have another video I'm going to queue up. And this one will be for Kelvin. And just let me know if we have another audio issue. We'll go from there.
My name is Gashira. I'm an ethnic Elolo from Kenya. We live on 2 islands in the magnificent Lake Turkana. Yeah, that's Lake Turkana for you. As you can see, it's a beauty. Our lives and the lake are very closely intertwined. In fact, we call ourselves Gurapau, meaning the people of the lake. And our language is O Gurapau, literally the mouth of the people of the lake. We depend on the lake for everything. We get our food from the lake. We get our housing, that is, our houses are built with the palm fronds that grow on the lake. Our boats, which are for fishing and both for transportation, are built with the same palms. Yeah, like other smaller tribes, the Elmoro have suffered a century of systemic exclusion. We are disconnected from roads, education, and healthcare. There is even a persistent rumor that in the 90s, the government, under the guise of oil exploration, gave concessions to a multinational company to dump radioactive waste just a mere 100 kilometers from Elolo Bay. While it's just a rumor, the disappearance of keystone species, degradation of local biodiversity, and the high prevalence of cancer gives credence to the rumor. The Elmolo face an existential threat, like the Aku who are pictured in here. In fact, this fellowship might be the first step to saving them as a people, because there are less than 1,000 of us remaining. And as you know, you will agree with me, colleagues, that language is vital to the collective identity of a people. You know, it leads to the cultural preservation and social cohesion. It also leads to resilience. When I started this journey, I was hoping to save a dying language. After a few weeks, I realized that the goal was actually to revive it, as there are currently no live speakers. I was fortunate enough to find a written resource that spoke of a sister tribe across the border. These are the Abore, who live in Ethiopia. You can see them on your screen. I was also fortunate enough to get a contact within the Abore tribe itself, and I learned that their dialect is quite close to El Molo, and the Abore itself is endangered with less than 6,000 live speakers. And I was able to get the colonial records with a few Gurapau words. I was also able to get a professor emeritus of the University of Milan who had done some study on the Elolo language, and now cross-checking between and getting with knowledge between now my Abore informant, the professor, and the colonial records that kept a few Elolo words. I was able to come up with a vocabulary list of 800 words, through which I made these lessons and which I will present to you. Thank you. Like other small tribes, the Elmolo have suffered a century of systemic exclusion. We are disconnected from roads, education, and healthcare. There is even a very persistent rumor that in the case of oil exploration, the government gave concessions to a multinational company to dump radioactive waste just a mere 100 kilometers from where the Elmolo live. While this is just a rumor, the disappearance of keystone species and the degradation of local biodiversity and the high prevalence of cancer gives credence to the rumor. Now, from the various vocabulary that I got, I was able to get quite a number of words and to organize them into various lessons. I was told that the best practices demand that you don't have more than 15 vocabulary in one single lesson. The vocabulary lists start or rather range from everyday pub items to body parts to our core economic activity, which is fishing. And one thing that I should mention is that the known language here is Swahili, because it's a lingua franca over there. And because these are words that we have not yet known how they are spoken, because I got the lessons, or rather the words, in a written form, and they were written in the international phonetical language. I first decided to use pictures, and have made a very expressive use of pictures to teach. This, for instance, is a chart, an alphabet chart. So I had, because of the desire to use a few letters, a few vocabulary items per lesson, I used that. Then there is a second part of the vocabulary chart. So this lesson, for instance, is on familial relationships. They are color coded, red, for instance, here shows that they are related by marriage. Blue shows that it's a person and their daughter, and then the green shows sibling. So it's a chart that the learner is able to understand very easily, and is able now to understand the Elmolo words that come with it. I also did some work, of course, with animals, wild animals in one category. I did work with domestic animals. I did work with birds, all of these in different categories. So I organized as such, and I went further. For instance, if we look at these wild animals, in Kiswahili, they are called wanyama wa porini. I looked at animals and they are young. The crocodile is very popular, a very common animal in our area. So, the male crocodile is R, the female one is Hal, the young one is Nyaute. So I made that distinction. So I did work that is relevant and that to my tribe, and where my tribe mates can actually identify with. So there are lessons, various vocabulary spread over around 12 vocabulary items, ranging from things that they are able to see on a daily basis. to say that the 7,000 language fellowship will help the Elolo people would be a gross understatement. It might be the lifeline that they need. As a way forward, I suggest the joining of, or rather the collaboration with the Abore people of Ethiopia. Luckily, Stephanie is organizing another fellowship or convention, as it were, of connecting between diaspora communities. And I consider the Abore people a diaspora of the Elolo, or the Elolo a diaspora of the Abore. And through these, we will be able to gain the knowledge of the words and the vocabulary that have been lost. We will also be able to rejuvenate our community anew. And the lessons that I've made will go a long way into reviving this language. I will start with my own children, and I'll roll it in a big way to the community, and I believe that the more people will be saved.
Thank you so much. And I really didn't know that much about alligators, and that was exciting to learn about as well. Crocodiles, rather. And up next, we have Karina. Karina, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thank you. Hello everyone. My name is Karina Kelogla, and I'm Gagauz. And let me share with you some visuals. Okay. Can you see it? Not yet, I guess.
Oh, I think it's starting now.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about my nation. So about Gagauz people. Okay, some technical problems. I'm sorry. Yeah, great. So Gagauz are actually Turkic-speaking people, and we are Orthodox Christian, a little bit different from the majority of Turkic-speaking people who are usually Muslim people. And especially about my nation, we are living in Ukraine, in a small part of Ukraine near the sea. I can show you the map so you will understand it better. Okay. All right. I guess I have some problems with the internet. I'm so sorry. Okay, great. So here you can see the map of Ukraine, and you can see the Black Sea. So usually Gagauz people are living right here, near Odessa region and other cities, if you know them. And here you can see the map of Gagauz migration, because initially Gagauz people, they were located in Altai mountains, and after that, during some migration processes and globalization, we went through the whole Europe and through the Balkan to get to Ukraine, actually, and now we are here. And a little bit about our language. So Gagauz language belongs to the Oghuz group of Turkic languages. If you know, so Turkic languages are divided into three groups, and we are Oghuz people, one of the most ancient and one of the biggest, let's say, group of Turkic family. And the interesting fact, unfortunately, due to Soviet occupation of Ukraine and other countries, in our language, we borrowed a lot of words and phrases from Russian language. But right now we are trying to purify our language and to make it better, and courses and projects like these, they are really helping to do us so. As I already have said, during Soviet times, we had really big troubles with the Gagauz language spreading, and we only had 15 books printed in Gagauz language, and we didn't have Gagauz at schools or in other universities or institutions. But right now we are really working on it, and we even have some famous Ukrainian poets and writers like Taras Shevchenko translated into Gagauz language to make people interested in learning it. And also a little bit about our problems of Gagauz people in Ukraine. One second. So let me start until the visual will be uploaded. We have a lot of problems in Ukraine due to our small number. Unfortunately, we have only 30,000 people in Ukraine who are Gagauz speaking people. And now we are working on spreading Gagauz language into kindergartens and into Gagauz speaking regions at schools. So only 4 small towns are now have it, at schools and into kindergartens. And also there are some Sunday schools, let's say, of Gagauz language learning in Odessa region. But unfortunately, it's not enough. So thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for having me. And I'm really appreciate for making this project. And I think it's really breathtaking, and it's really so important for my community. And especially thanks for my family who supported me. Thanks for my dad for enormous amount of hours of recordings, of making all the vocabulary together. And thanks for Kylie and Stephanie for 24/7 support. Really appreciate it. And now I want to show you a little bit of the course itself. So first of all, I will not show you everything because I really have a lot of chapters. You can see like emotions, animals, like colors and all this stuff. But I will show you a little bit to make a general concept. So first of all, the first chapter will be about the general traditions, culture, to make people understand who are Gagauz in general. It is actually named who are Gagauz. So you can see it's for Ukrainian speakers, so you cannot understand it, but I will explain. So you can see about some texts about traditions, culture, about some photos. There are a little bit about the cuisine, about the history of migration, about the modern problems, about the interaction with Ukrainian government and all this stuff. So it would be really interesting for people who are located in Ukraine. After that, you can see a very splendid video about Gagauz of Ukraine. We will not look through it because it's really like long, but it's really interesting, trust me. Here is a video of national anthem of Ukraine in Gagauz language. It's really great. Actually, my dad made it. And it shows how Gagauz people love the country where they live. And our national dance, I'm sorry. Yeah, and after that, you can take a quiz about what have you learned. And also, okay. This chapter is about alphabet. So here you can listen to it. You can look through the letters. After that, again, look through the letters, look how are they written. Now you can look on the letter and look on the word which is started from this letter and listen to it again. And here is the game. You need to find the word which is started on this letter, which we have learned in the previous activity. And here is lyrics about love to your language. So you can again listen to it. You can look for the translation. You can look for the text. It's lovely. And here is the game. So you need to put it in the right order. All right, so this one is about greetings and general introduction. So it's like, hello, my name is, yes, no, sure, like kind of. So you can look through the main phrases. After that, again, you can look through the phrase and visualize it. After that, you need to match it with the translation. And also here is a conversation of Gagauz girl and Gagauz boy. Like general conversation about, hello, how are you? I'm good, how are you? What have you done today? So like this. And also here you can, okay. Here you can make the same dialogue by yourself. And also I'm in love with this chapter. It's my favorite one. It's about the family. So here are the words which are dedicated to the family, like sister, brother, mom, dad. You can look through that again. Here is the film, a great one about recreating of the old photo of Gagauz family in modern times. I love this project. And here you need to find the word for the picture. So again, a game. Okay, so you need to find the word for the word, which is written upper. And now here is the song about aunt, auntie. And after that, you can look through the lyrics again with the translation. It was really hard to translate the song and to make it rhyming a little bit, but we made it with my dad. And now you need to put the missing words into this song. You can listen to it one more time, or how do you want?
I hate to interrupt you. This is such a beautiful, beautiful course you put together. We are running out of time. If you want to say one very last quick thing.
Yeah, I'm finishing. So yeah, it's like the photo, ancient photo of Gagauz family. So you can look through the words. And the last part is about my family. So it's like me and my family. And you can listen to the audio of me talking about it. So yes, one more time, thank you everyone. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Kali. This is my family who supports me. And thank you to my colleagues. I learned a lot from your presentation. They were really great. So yeah, bye everyone.
Beautiful job. Beautiful. To everybody, I want to really give a heartfelt congratulations to all of the fellows. If you all want to turn your cameras back on, I want to give you all a round of applause for your amazing work for the past 10 weeks or so. So thank you everybody for joining us. If you have questions for our fellows, please add them in the chat. I think we'll have a minute here for 1 or 2 questions. I just want to say though, how incredibly proud we are at 7,000 Languages of all of our fellows and the work that they've done. This is an incredible amount of work for 10 weeks. And so we're really just continuously impressed and proud of all of our fellows every year. And as our fellows are finishing up their courses, they're putting in the final touches, we will be in touch with you all because we will publish them for free on our website, 7000.org. Finally, I just want to say that this work is not done in isolation. It really requires collaboration and participation from the community at every level. For many of our fellows, that means the participation of their community, a community of speakers or fellow learners, but that also means the community that was created here in this group of fellows. They were each other's community and cheerleader as we continue to work through creating these courses. And so we welcome you all, fellows, as alumni now of this program into our growing community of language warriors who are creating resources and revitalizing their languages around this world. Finally, though, this work is also not possible without a global community of supporters, like those of you who are able to attend today. And so with the conclusion of this event, we are excited to announce our fellowship fundraiser. So beginning today, all of the money that we raise will be sent directly to our fellowship program so that we can hopefully bring in another fellow next year and continue to grow this program year after year. As I mentioned at the start, over 2,000 applications came in. So we know that there's so much work to be done. So I think we're going to drop the link in the chat. We really would welcome your donations if you can, or just share. Please, we're going to share this recording out. We're going to share the courses out, and we ask that you also share this with your network. So thank you again, everybody who was able to attend, and to all of our fellows. Want to leave, we have just a couple minutes left for questions. I know one question came in earlier for the fellows, and anybody who wants to answer can. When working with elders who are helping you with your language work, how do you work with the elders and help them cope with the stress of language work and language recording? Anybody want to jump in and talk about that experience?
I can. So for my specific situation, it's kind of a little easier with like my auntie. She's my grandpa's sister, but we also didn't grow up really knowing her. So we're still learning like about each other and like our relationships. And so I don't know if it's okay if I could share my screen. We usually like to make foods with her. There was one morning we made breakfast with her and she started talking about like, oh, I miss my apple pie, but her hands have like arthritis. So she has a hard time doing it by herself. So we made apple pie with her. And so we don't pressure her to like use the language as she's doing it. But in her specific situation too, she does miss having people to talk to in Hoopa language. And so she'll just start saying like, oh, I'm stirring this in the language, or like, oh, we're gonna put it in the oven. So kind of letting them navigate like when they want to speak too, and giving them space to like get comfortable again, like was really important like for us, but I think for a majority of people.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Any other questions? I know there was a question about using some songs, or Aj, if you had a question as well for the group.
I did actually have some questions. First of all, yeah, Karina, just kind of going back to your presentation there, and working with your auntie on this project, it seems like that she works on a lot of different projects. I'm curious if there's specific things she enjoys to talk about more or less when it comes to the content she's creating. And as well as, I was curious personally, how did she train her cat to use the potty? Because I don't have a cat, and I think a big reason for that is I do not like cat litter. So this might be important knowledge to transfer as well.
Well, so she always talks about like her cat just knew a lot. Like he just knows a lot is what she always said. And so I think he would just follow her. She has really smart cats. Sadly that cat passed away. And so now she has a new cat named Miss Kitty, but when she does her makeup in the morning, Miss Kitty sits there and waits for her makeup to be done. So I think she just brings her cat everywhere with her. But yeah, definitely she really enjoys like more conversational like storytelling or like stories about her life or just like bringing up old things that have happened or like things that she'll just remember rather than just sitting there and like focusing on one word at a time and like one specific thing. And so for us, we do have like lists of things that we like hope that she like knows how to say or like will say. And so we have that just in case. And we kind of go off of like depending on her mood and like how much she's like willing to talk. And then eventually she'll get into like these grooves where she's like, yeah, like let me tell you about like this word and like break it down and stuff like that. So kind of varies, but overall, storytelling and conversations are like the main thing. And I think that's like a big part of just like the languages. And so I think she's just really happy to have moments where she can have conversations in the language again. Because like I said earlier, she is our last like first speaker elder. And so she'll try to talk to people, but sometimes they're not like getting it. Even with us, like she likes to talk and she talks really fast sometimes, and so it's like a lot to process. And so I think now that we're like building up our confidence and our language, we're getting to a point where we can like understand each other, and then she's like getting like having a more positive outlook in the language again, like despite all the like poor negative like histories behind where our language is now. So yeah.
Well, thanks again. Thank you, everybody who was able to share, everybody who was able to attend. This is not the last of it, though. We will be showcasing our fellows' courses as they're completed, and we hope to also present more interviews and really learn more from our fellows as they become part of this growing community. So once again, just a really big hand for all of you and all of the work that you've done. And thanks everybody who could attend. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much. Excellent presentations. Excellent work.
Miigwech, thank you all.
Thank you.
You all.
Yo, thank you.
Hi, Masi.
Bye, everyone.